Happy Friday and happy birthday to Jon Osorio. I'm apologizing to the K side of his family for not getting that on the screen. Today is not only a full moon and Friday the 13th, it is Jon Osorio's 65th birthday. This is a very big deal for me also because Jon was my first guest, the first show I ever did of Hawaii is My Mainland, I guess some 6+ months
We all thought
ago.
that was going to be your last the way that went.
And you were the brave one amongst my friends who dared to come down here to Think Tech and
It's
be on the
awfully
show.
intimidating, really imposing building, and this green everywhere.
It doesn't look like green to
No,
the audience, though, because we have that charming picture of the coronation pavilion at Iolani Palace.
And tell us why do we have that? Why is that our background today?
Because you and one of your fabulous offspring, Jamaica, will be playing at the very first Manu Festival tomorrow.
That's right.
And you guys are going to come on somewhere between 1 and 1:30. You're going to be playing music while there's a nature costume event parade. So you will be.
That's what Jamaica was thinking about, wondering what is going on while we're singing. Are people
are parading around in their nature costumes. It's not limited to children, although certainly children are invited to. So it's not limited to birds. So I was thinking about wearing my limu costume.
Oh,
I don't
that'd
know.
be nice.
Anyway.
Yeah,
Anyway, it's going to
bird
be
catcher
cool
costume.
So the whole day starts at 11 and it's till 3 o'clock, and then you and Jamaica are going to be performing somewhere 1:30. And there's going to be food that you can bring your own, or you can get the fresh, the garden oven pizza there. So Jon,
That's pretty good.
Jon, another wonderful coincidence about this day and tomorrow being at the palace, you have a history of playing at the palace.
Yeah, as I was saying earlier, not much of a history. I mean, I think I can actually name the times I've sung there or performed there. I think I can. But yeah, you have a clip of an early performance?
Yes, I found this on the internet, and hopefully Zuri will be able to load the video of 1982, right there at that same coronation pavilion. You and your partner, Randy Borden, were playing at an event for Kaho'olawe. And is Zuri ready with the...
Much of the feelings for George and Kimuya are expressed, especially for us in the Ohana by the next group, Jon and Randy, Jon Osorio and Randy Borden. How about a big hand for these guys? And their music will tell us the difference.
And I'm so sorry. Oh, these Hawaiians, they can sure talk, yeah? But don't forget, if you guys get dishes in your sink, wash them, eh?
Why not?
Okay, I want 3 minutes.
We're going to play a song that was written by some friends of ours, and it's about Honolulu. And we think that Honolulu is a beautiful city in which to live, and it's our home anyway. Never mind all the tall buildings, sometimes you just forget about it, you know?
Wow, memories,
Yeah.
Jon.
Who were those people? Yeah, it's so funny to think about, how, you're kind of in the moment. You're 20s, what was I, 27, maybe 28 years old when we did that. You think, you're in the moment. You don't think you'll ever grow old, and yet, look at me, I've grown old. How did that happen?
Anyway, so now that you are old, what do you think?
Well, that's an interesting, interesting question to start this off. What do I think? I think it's really nice to have this conversation on the day that I turned 65 and think about maybe, for instance, what this whole movement. I mean, obviously there have been a number of us who have played music, written songs, written poetry, gone down and give testimony at the legislature, organized and participated in protests. And it goes back, a good long ways. That thing that we saw was done in 1982. And, the movement that sort of gave rise to that is even older than that. We're looking at, 40, 45 years of pretty steady political activity, not just by Native Hawaiians, but really by people who have been trying to hold on to a sense of this place as being a Hawaiian place, holding on to Hawaii and trying to protect the things that were meaningful to us as we were growing up, holding on and protecting lands, protecting communities, protecting sacred places. And my God, we're still doing it, and we still have to do it.
And we're still here to do it, though.
Well, that's not all of us are, right? I mean, that's just a kind of luck of the draw. I'm glad I'm 65 and still alive and still able to. But some people have given their whole lives to this movement. And that performance there, we were celebrating and mourning the loss of George Helm, whose participation in this was relatively short-lived, but still so incredibly important. And a number of people have passed since then. Kupuna Birthday, recently Kekuni Blaisdell. I really should write down a list of the people that I know who have really given their lives to this struggle. Joyce Kainoa, who really recently passed on Molokai, who was originally a member of PKO.
I remember seeing the memorial plaques on Kaho'olawe to George and Kimo, and they're really beautiful. And I don't know that we have anything off of Kaho'olawe where there's a memorial. I think maybe we need
Maybe we do. I mean,
PKO memorial somewhere more accessible. I don't know. But what do you think the big wins have been for the movement over the years? I mean, what are the things that, just really fill your heart with gratitude? And
well, that, and Kaho'olawe really stands out as one of the main things. But there's, Waihole Waikane was a huge victory for not just for taro farming, but just for this idea that there were limits to urban growth. That the state itself, that the governor recognized that there had to be limits, because clearly the people did. The farmers and the community people at Waihole and Waikane made their ideas and their wishes so crystal clear. It was clear to everybody. You couldn't, if you were going to develop there, then really there was no place that you would not develop. There would be no place that couldn't be urbanized on Oahu Island. You take such great agricultural places and plow that under and create a housing project, then every place was vulnerable. So that was I thought a major victory. But there have been others. Hawaiian language, making sure that it gets proper funding, the insistence that the state take responsibility for Kulakaya Puni, that was important. And
the immersion schools.
Immersion schools, right, Kulakaya Puni. And currently, Mauna Kea. All of these movements are not just, they're not disconnected from each other. They are absolutely connected genealogically. We've been doing this now for a very long time, and now younger people are taking over this movement and saying, this is our time to malama. This is our time to protect, to protect this land, and it's just a
so
wonderful thing.
beautiful.
Yeah,
It's so
it is.
beautiful. You're graduating another class from Hawaiian
Yes,
Studies.
tonight.
Tonight?
That's another thing that's happening. Hawaiian,
It's one of
Hawaiian
the
Studies,
most
Hawaiian
beautiful
language
things
graduation.
I've ever seen. Is that
Yeah, you going to
graduation.
come? Oh, you have another thing you have to go to. That's right. Yeah, but it's going to be amazing, as it always is. And when I see these students graduating and knowing that I'm going to see them in a few years, they will be working for agencies like Kamehameha and Office of Hawaiian Affairs. They will be in the legislature. They will be.
Or the legislature of the renewed Hawaiian.
Well, if you really want to go there, sure. I mean, honestly, there is nothing. Nobody can see the future, right? Although we don't want a federally recognized tribe.
I didn't say
in
anything
Hawaii.
about that.
Well, I'm just making sure
Okay.
that gets on the record. We
All
don't
right.
want that. We want an independent country.
Yes.
Yeah. So if that's where we're going with this, then yes, they should be in that legislature. They should be in those leadership roles. It's going, and it's exciting to think about the future for them.
I was so touched at that graduation, and one by your admonishing your haumana to their responsibilities, for which they have been well prepared, very well prepared. But also, what's so beautiful about having all of this happen in our community is that we get to hold them accountable, and we get to celebrate them as they are moving forward and accepting their new tasks and their roles in our.
I've been saying this for some time, and this. I'm speaking as a historian. When we think about, there have been really, really huge social, political movements in Hawaii in the time that I've been alive. So thinking back into the 1950s and 1960s, and you had all those union people coming in
Right.
and taking over, shoving aside the Republican Guard, and doing it so effectively.
The Palaka Revolution.
Yeah, that the Republicans have not been able to really make a peep since. I mean, shoving it aside and taking their position in government. And this was done really by union and primarily Chinese, Japanese, people who were,
Yes.
waiting their turn. They wanted their piece of economic, of economic resources. They wanted their access to the government. That's what they were doing this for. And they did it really, really effectively. When you see what Hawaiians do with education, it's about service. They go into education, they go into school teaching, they go into social work, they go into medicine, they go into law. It's a very, very different kind of movement, and it's like Hawaiians who come into our program, they're already fitted for community and public
life of service.
Yeah, they are.
John, let's take a minute, and then we'll be right back on Hawaii is My Mainland.
Hi, I'm Donna Blanchard. My show on Think Tech is Center Stage. I interview artists of all different ilk on the show, and we talk about what they do and how they do it. Those are both really fascinating. What I find most fascinating about all of my interviews is talking to people about why they do what they do, what the process does for us, what the actual artistic process is. I hear all the time from people that they watch the show and they feel inspired. My guests tell me a lot that they feel inspired to go home and create something new and exercise, flex that artistic muscle. And I hope you will too. I hope you'll join us on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock on the Think Tech Hawaii digital series.
Welcome back to Hawaii is My Mainland. Today, Jon Osorio is with us, and we're celebrating his 65th birthday. We're
Anniversary.
celebrating.
Wow.
No,
The
it's not
anniversary
that
is
many.
life, yeah.
It's 20-something, as I recall.
No, this year, Mary and I will celebrate 30 years.
Woohoo!
This is a really big one, and this is a shout out to my children. Usually, children plan and pay for, finance. This is really a big thing. The 30th anniversaries of their parents. The 25th we usually do, but the 30th and the 50th, that's a next generation thing. It's a kuleana.
Well, thank goodness there's 5 of them to spread it out amongst.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if you're watching, you might want to think about it.
There's a little clip that we're going to show now of you and Jamaica, child number 2, who you were playing at La Ku'okoa at the University of Hawaii this past year. And it's a foretaste of tomorrow. It's the song that you wrote about Mauna Kea.
Yes.
The harmonies are so beautiful. You and your kids, I just love it. In the last couple of years, that's been happening more and more often. Actually, at the end, not only tomorrow at the grounds of Iolani Palace at around 1:30, but at the end of this month, you and
Yeah, well, I don't think we want to advertise that because it's so hard to get in.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I don't
you
think-
have to know me or know Mary or
Yeah,
know John to
that's
find
right.
out about it, because he's right. Otherwise, we have to show up 3 hours early and camp there to get our table.
There you go.
But tomorrow is free, and there's room for everybody.
And I wanted to talk a little bit about this song, maybe, and maybe some of
Yeah.
the things that
Poliahu.
that I think are really, really important, because Poliahu is a song about, trying to really understand the sacredness of this mountain of Mauna Kea. And as you know, I've been a board member for Kahea for the last 7 or 8 years. We have been, principally involved. I mean, one of our big projects all along has been to try and get the state to act responsibly in terms of the 30-meter telescope and
What
the
does that
approvals
look like
for that.
to you, John?
Well,
Responsibly?
it's responsible means that you actually hold real testimonials and public hearings, that you have a group of people who are serving on the DLNR that are actually listening to everybody's concern and taking them seriously. Responsible is when you don't simply make up your mind that you can't turn down a $1.4 billion project, that you can't do that, so you've just got to find some way to make sure that happens. Responsible means, trying to figure out what are the costs of that kind of development. What does it actually take out? What is the community actually saying? And then here's the hard part, and it's really, it's clearly impossible, I think, for DLNR people really to understand this. But to take this further and to really understand what the land is actually saying. Okay, and since this is my birthday and I can say whatever I feel like saying, I'm going to tell you that the thing that people, and this goes to environmentalists and to people of goodwill in Hawaii as well, the thing they don't really accept and understand is that the land, the Aina, is conscious. They don't really understand what Hawaiians have been trying to do for the last 40 years, which is essentially to create, is to restore an intimacy with the land that we had for 2,000 years. The separation of the Kamakawiwoʻole, of the Hawaiian, of the human being from the Aina, which is something that we see happening in the 1800s and in the 20th century as well.
The legacy of colonialism.
The legacy of colonialism, the legacy of capital, the legacy of a different way, the Judeo-Christian way of looking at land as a resource. All of those things which basically, shoved the Hawaiian aside and said, that is not the way we look at land. We look at land as opportunity. We look at the land as resource. We look at the land as something inanimate and an object. Thanks to Julia Morgan's dissertation. We look at this differently, and this is the civilized, proper, intelligent way of looking at land. And they succeeded in almost silencing that Kamakawiwoʻole understanding of land, but they didn't quite succeed. And we have our voices coming back and saying, no, you have to pay attention. And it's not just what we're saying, it's what the land is saying. It's what the Aina is saying. How much time do we have to explore this a little bit?
We have time. Let's see. Somebody's tweeting at us. Oh, Anu, hi. How do you feel about the Manu ko and the, okay, we'll get to that later.
We're going to come, yeah.
Yeah, let's keep on this. You're on a roll, John.
So look, we've been, the recreation of that intimacy, we've been doing this through music, through poetry, through protests now for a good long time. And people are starting to listen, they're starting to understand that, you know, when we take on these projects, when we take a piece of land and simply sell it to a developer, that we're not really heeding that need, that it's not just a human need, it is the need of all of the species here to really, really heed what the land is saying. Think about what the earth is saying to, you know, to countries, nations today, and it's speaking in a real loud voice, and it's basically saying, you know, our climate, everything is changing, and it's changing because of you. And if this continues to happen, you know, a species, a million-year-old species can disappear like that. A 2 million-year-old glacier can disappear. It's gone. You know, and islands can disappear. And finally, and you know that this voice is finally starting to be heard, because even Republicans hear it. Even Republicans can hear what is happening, and there's starting to be a kind of consensus built around this notion that something needs to be done. But it's not just about correcting. What I'm saying here is this issue isn't simply about correcting how we deal with the earth. It is actually about really acknowledging that the earth and human beings, that we are all one thing together. And the earth can speak, animals can speak, the species around us can speak to us. We just have to be able to hear them, and we have to live so that we can live with them. This is something I think that our ancestors understood really, really well, and it's the only thing that will save us.
So learning how to reconnect. I mean, people do it in many, many different ways, but I do feel that we are so fortunate here in Hawaii that we have a native culture that knows, that evolved as part of this place,
yeah.
And understands that intimate connection. So we already know how to do it here. We
Yes.
just have to listen to it and listen for it. And Kamakawiwoʻole Hawaii Nui Akea, actually, the School of Traditional Hawaiian Knowledge, is it called?
The School of Hawaiian Knowledge.
Right.
Yeah.
So even though it's coming from a Western academic institutional umbrella, is doing an amazing job. I feel so hopeful for our young people as opposed to youngsters in other parts of the world that are more disconnected, like the continental U.S., that they don't have that model in their community about reconnecting in this meaningful way, which is what it will take to heal what's happening.
You know, I agree. I mean, I think that human beings in general, we all come from traditions and societies that used to know this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, whether you come from Germanic peoples in the forests and things like this, or Pacific Islanders, or you know, we once knew how to do this, and all of our ancestors did. And when we think about, you know, where we are today, nobody, you know, I shouldn't say nobody, very few people in America are really comfortable with what the future looks like without some kind of drastic change. And everybody is starting to acknowledge that, you know, whether we like it or not, change has to happen in how we relate to the land.
That makes this a particularly exciting time, I think. I mean,
yeah, it's exciting. I'd like to be another 20 years or 30 years younger so that I could feel the excitement. But because you know, I look at my children and I think, you know, yeah, it's also a little scary. right? Because it's hard. Scientists themselves are saying, even if we put the regulatory brakes on now, and even if they were really drastic, we're not really sure, we're not really sure how much we can save. We're not really sure how much suffering we can assuage.
I just think that the fact that we are having a discussion where we can acknowledge that we can't just do what we've been doing and expect that to be okay. I think that's
Right.
huge. I mean, that there are steps that need to be taken, and we have to invent them or reinstate them. I don't know. As far as the Osorio, Greater Osorio clan is embracing this, what are some of your favorite ways of reconnecting?
Well, obviously, I feel strongly that our compositions, the way we sing back to the land, the way we create songs for our own communities, songs, poetry, all kinds of writing. I've been so blessed to be able to teach a literature class at the Center for Hawaiian Studies. And I get these students coming in who have things to say, and they can say it in a variety of ways. They can say it by writing the treatments for a play or a short story. They can say it by writing poetry and commenting about that poetry. They can say it in the songs that they listen to, and the songs that are meaningful to them. So, when I look at my own children, my oldest son, Kane, who really understands, he understands how important these issues are, but the way he expresses it through it is through really hard work and dedication, to the work that he does at Kamehameha. Duncan and Jamaica are both, composers, and they're songwriters and Jamaica's and poets, and they put those things out there with the faith that somehow, right, that somehow these words have meaning for people, that they cause a shift or a change in the way we behave. And I've always believed that. I have always believed that the biggest, the fundamental changes that happen in human society happen because of artists and poets.
Because the heart is touched and the emotions are touched,
Yeah.
as well as the mind and the spirit.
Yeah.
You have touched many people. Like,
Oh, look,
Trina. Hau'olilaha now, John. We love you. Oh, there is a classic case of Keiki Oka'aina who recently has migrated out because of the economic pressures of living in Hawaii. So that is what we would like to inhibit somehow, figure that out, so
Yeah.
that our
Well,
island
and
children don't have to if they don't want to.
I really think it comes down to some simple things. I mean, if a place, we're pretty clear that this island once supported a population of, 200,000 to 300,000 people just on the produce that was grown on this island. So we'll have to come back and talk about this.
All right,
Right.
good idea. Let's do that.
Aloha, my name is Justina Spiritu, and I'm the co-host of Hawaii Farmers Series. This is my co-host, Matthew Johnson, and you can catch us every Thursday at 4 p.m. at thinktechhawaii.com. What do we talk about, Matt?
So on Hawaii Farmers Series, we're going to be bringing on the farmers and also supporter of farmers, including restaurants, caterers, as well as government supporters and nonprofits to hear their background stories and understanding our local ag community just a little bit better.
Yeah, essentially, there's a lot more that goes into farming and the local food community beyond just producing the food. And we want to feature and get the background story on all these folks and see how we all work together as a community. So join us every Thursday. Aloha.
So, yeah.
Welcome back to Hawaii is My Mainland. I'm Kawi Lucas, and with me today is Dr. Jonathan K.
Hey.
Kamakawiwoʻole Osorio, Professor of Hawaiian Studies at UH Manoa, and a really great friend. So, John is celebrating his 65th birthday, as we've mentioned numerous times, and reflecting back on some of that, and looking forward to other projects, like the one tomorrow.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
going to be fun tomorrow.
Yeah, and do you have any musical projects in your?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I keep hoping that Jamaica and Duncan and I will record something together. Maybe they don't call them albums anymore. Did you know that? And they don't even call them CDs anymore. I don't know what they call them. I don't know what they are. I know what it is you actually record with. Everything in that whole industry has changed, but I'm hoping we'd like to do something together.
I think we should maybe start a crowdfunding campaign. Wouldn't that be a good idea?
Crowdfunding.
Crowdfunding, and to get the Osorio Ohana to record one of those a collection.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Anything that
We're
defrays, the cost of such a project. I have to say that I have, in my recording career, right, I've pretty much, in 2 out of 3 cases, the people who produced our records, Randy and my records, lost money. So.
Well, we still have to re-release some of the music from your last
Yeah, we should do that. Yeah, for the Angel Network one.
E Ho'i Mai. There's
Yeah,
some
there's some good
fabulous
music on
songs on that just don't get played because it's one of those whodunits, a mystery of where are the master tapes or.
Oh, I have the master tapes.
Oh, you do?
I do. What I don't have are the CDs that were produced, which is a real shame. I don't know where they wound up.
I have a cassette tape.
There you go.
But you have the masters. Well, now I know,
I have the
John.
masters. I do.
I see
In an
your
air-conditioned room
project.
somewhere.
So you're going to play something.
I'm going to play something. I'm going to play Keola Beamer's Beauty of Mauna Kea.
Okay. Shall we? Can we? All right. Let's just play.
You want me to just do a short version
No,
of
no,
it?
no. Just do whatever you
Are
want.
you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's your day.
So this is an example of how even in English we make our intimate relationships with the land. When Keola sings this song, I mean, there's never any question of how much he loves that mountain. My friends and I would sometimes roam the trails of Mauna Kea. And in the evening we'd come home to see her standing there. The moon moves around her when she sleeps. The clouds stand beside her when she weeps, and I could be forgotten and 1,000 miles away, and still I would recall the beauty of Mauna Kea. And I live in the city now, and I see different things. In the night when I'm alone, she's in my dreams. The wind spins around her when she wakes. The the sun spreads his warmth across her face, and I could be forgotten and 1,000 miles away, and still I would recall the beauty of Mauna Kea. Now to any land you go, she will be with you if you love her like I do. Mauna Kea, Mauna Kea, Mauna Kea. Beautiful song. Beautiful song and timeless. And that's,
Last year at the Maui Arts Month wearable art performance, that was played, and it was a very moving to have all of the participants show their solidarity there.
Yeah.
And not just the protesting Hawaiians, there it's more
Everybody, right.
it's everybody. The Casaveras, the Vicky Hold Takamine, all the people involved with that show, which is next Wednesday, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. You played.
Was it last year that I did that? Or
No,
was it year before?
Year before, you.
You have such a good memory for things. When,
I'm younger than you are, John.
yeah, when you get to my age, everything gets sort of scrunched up. Was it last year? Was it last week? I don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
So we have the palace, the celebration of the Manu Oku, and that's really, this event tomorrow is a great example of just what you've been talking about. That it's an event that is celebrating our reconnecting with nature and honoring these beautiful birds that disappeared from the main Hawaiian Islands and have only come back to Honolulu so far. They are not found in any of the other main Hawaiian Islands.
Why are they coming back to Honolulu, you think?
Well, I asked that to my guests last week, Keith Swindle, who's a biologist, and he said it's because of the great mature trees here. Manu Oku do not build nests. And here, because of things like the Exceptional Tree Program, a proof positive that policy can make a difference.
Gotta get that one in there, yep. Yes,
Little
they can.
shout out to the
Yep.
Outdoor Circle. That because Honolulu has these gorgeous old trees that are a good protection from things like feral cats and mongoose that are spread out in so much of the rest of Hawaii, they have a chance. The birds have a chance to. Yeah, pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
Yeah, so there's going to be bird tours and all sorts of things, but maybe John, we don't have to show the birdie pictures, but we're going to talk about Anu. How do you feel about the Manu Oku and that?
What's the MBTA?
Oh, Migratory Bird Treaty Act, both in one festival. The Migratory Treaty Act is the 100th anniversary. It's the century anniversary of the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, which was between Canada, the United States, and Mexico to not hunt migratory birds. But the funny thing was that the British were actually signing on behalf of Canada because Canada wasn't Canada when they signed it. So what do you think, John?
I think it's important not to interfere with the migratory habits of any of any animal or human being for that matter. And so if you want to talk about migratory habits, let's talk about, let's talk about people who rim the Arctic Circle and pay no attention to, national boundaries, Laplanders, and, who have been, following herds of reindeer for, how do we, there's so many ways to live on this earth. And unfortunately, the thing about the modern system that we live in, the nation-state system, is we kind of think of all kinds of different ways to create barriers for movement.
Yes,
And,
draw lines.
yeah. And,
Create us and them.
So like when some crazy like Donald Trump actually says, let's build a wall between Mexico and Hawaii, and Hawaii, and the United States. I mean, he's basically saying something that a lot of right-wing people really think is a good idea, but don't like having said aloud. They just like to sort of keep that like on the down low. I think it's really, really interesting to think about. Yes.
Think about
finishing this conversation and moving on to another thing. I think it's really interesting to think about acknowledging the patterns of life of lots and lots of different societies in the world, animal societies and human ones as well, and that we stop thinking only in terms of
anthropocentric
and money. And
money.
And production and markets and those kinds of things. That we start thinking in terms of what this world biologically actually is like.
So that's going to take melting a lot of hearts and making, this is a picture of the Manu Oku, how it, that's a nest. There is no nest. They just lay their eggs right on the branches.
Are they just lazy or what?
No, they. And then there's that adorable
pretty,
thing. Yeah. And you can kind of see the foot there, but they just they're just out there. So if there's a cat that comes by, they're toast. So anyway, you and Jamaica will be there tomorrow at the Palace around 1:30. I will be there.
You're
all
just
day.
reminding me over and over again
Yes,
what time
to
we
make
start,
sure.
aren't you?
I have a parking space for you.
Oh, good. Jamaica's sort of insisting on that. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah. And thanks for being part of the show again. This is show number 31. I never would have made it through the first one if it wasn't for you, Jonathan Osorio.
Well,
So thanks to you.
let's see
and
what
thanks
happens
to-
after
to
this
Mary.
one. Take
for
care.
keeping you going.
Yeah.
Aloha.
Aloha.